All right. Yeah, they wanted me to have video. They wanted to have my camera, so I had to take it out of my green screen. So that's why it's there. So I am on the play because I lost the previous match. I am on the play, and my enemy chose Pioneer. So yeah, this is like okay, this is fine. Turn 1 Rebellious Mystic, turn 2 Wolf of Haven, turn 3 Nissa, right? I mean that's what this one is. Let's go. I thought Hatch of Voices is instant, I swear to God. I thought it was. I didn't know it was sorcery. I'd always just like activated it like main phase and make my opponent concede. I never like tried to activate it instant speed, so I didn't know it wasn't. I played the Hatch of Oasis in multiple tournaments, and it's never come up that it wasn't instant speed. I played it in I played it as a 2 of I think in the energy deck, the old Scarab God energy deck. And it just literally never came up that it wasn't an instant. My opponent just always conceded because I had like a 5/5 and they read at 8. Right? They just did it. It just never came up. Yeah. It's sorcery speed only, if you're wondering. But yeah, this is turn 3 Nissa. Let's go. So enemy ends up playing Jace here, which is super interesting because now we have a decision to make. Do we let our opponent Jace, or do we Nissa them? Super interesting decision. What do you think? What do you want to do, chat? This is the hand. What's the play? Kill Jace or play Nissa plus Wolf Willowhaven. Right. So my idea when I was talking, let's see if I actually have. Do I have audio here? I might have audio here. Let's listen to past MJ. Maybe you can't hear this. To get smashed. Okay, you can't hear it. Let's listen to past MJ. Champions MJ. Who is this guy behind me? Enemy doesn't have 2 black. So whatever I play here is unlikely to get smashed. Can you hear this? I'm assuming you can. Yeah, you can? Okay. So State Wayfinder into thought, excuse me, it's not a big deal. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm vocalizing all the plays my opponent can have, right? Like what are the worst case scenarios? I commented that my opponent does not have a black mana in play, so they can't Swift End or Nissa with Murderous Rider. I have 40-minute clock. I'm like, let's just use some of the clock. So what I'm basically doing is I'm going through a mental catalog, like what are all the permutations of the cards that our opponent could have, right? So like for instance, I think the fact that our opponent did not play a black source in the first 2 turns tells me that they might be black mana screwed, and the Jace is trying to bail them out of that. So if I Voracious Hydra the Jace, I'm potentially keeping my opponent off of black mana a turn longer. I was looking at the other screen.
Pioneer deck list.
Yeah, I even say like, what does the Pioneer even deck list look like? So I'm looking up the amount.
Much to it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what is even in this deck? Whenever you see me looking at the other screen, I'm looking at the deck list.
Thoughtseized, but I might still be able to win even if I get Thoughtseized afterwards. I'm not sure Jace activating is that big of a deal. They're most certainly looking for a black source, right?
Yeah, I comment that like I think they're looking for a black source. It looks like they are. I don't know if anybody actually watched the finals and know were they actually looking for a black source. I have no idea. But from the information that I gleaned, it seemed like they were.
This feels better to me. Gives me more light top decks.
They had two? Okay. They had it rolled up.
They don't have a second black. I think if they had a black source, I would probably just Voracious Hydra that Jace down.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like if enemy had played Watery Grave or had a black source, I would have definitely Voracious Hydra the Jace down. 100%. But the fact that they don't have a black source means that I know Nissa is going to get two activations off, and I'm like, I might as well just get it out there now.
Go from there. I think their best play here is Seder Wayfinder and maybe flip with the fetch landers or a fatal push.
Anyways, those are my thoughts on the matter. Let's go back to silence. Silence and speed. So now let's look at our mana. We have 2, 4, 5, 6. And we can untap with Nissa on the Wolf Willow land to get. So we could have 10 mana if we wanted it. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 mana if we want it. Well, we go pretty deep in the tank this turn. Because I kind of just didn't want to. I kind of just didn't want to expose my Wolf Willow Haven to a potential removal spell, but that's a lot of mana to go away. We have 10 mana. You can see the targets in the bottom. I was thinking that I could play Karn, is what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, maybe I can just. I have 10 mana. I could Karn. Could Karn God Pharaoh statue. It's a thing we could do. Is that really good enough? I think Karn plus Sky Sovereign might just be better. Or even just Karn plus Verdurous Gearhulk. I think might just be better. But I ended up going for Grafdigger's Cage because I see the Uro in my opponent's graveyard and I don't want them to get that back. So we take a little bit slow this game. It is game one. They don't have Reclamation Sages. And enemy's deck is kind of ice cold to a Grafdigger's Cage game one. Because they can't, the Flip Jace can't rebuy spells. And Uro can't come back. And there are win conditions. And not only that, Tireless Tracker's clues cannot be sacrificed because Karn is in play. So we could have gone for God Pharaohs. We could have done that. That was an option. I ended up going for Grafdigger's Cage instead, and then playing a Voracious Hydra as a 10/11 to threaten. Like what this does is, it puts a ton of pressure on them, and I ended up doing the math that even if they kill the Voracious Hydra, I can Darksteel Citadel. I can Karn for Darksteel Citadel, attack them, and hash up Oasis. Is what I was thinking. What ended up happening, but I thought I could activate a Headship Oasis at instant speed. So it's kind of awkward. Kind of awkward. But yeah. So I go for Dark to Citadel thinking they're just dead on board. Because our Versus Hydra has trample. So I just swing out here. I'm like, oh yeah, activate Headship Oasis, GG. I'm like, and this is when which is when it hit me. Because I'm like, I right clicked it. I'm looking at the thing like, wait, what the hell is going on? Why can't I activate this? Okay, okay, and then I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. All right, we meant to play versus Hydra post combat, right? This is embarrassing. I'm not gonna share auto. Audio doesn't work on 4x speed, so unless you want me to hear like a chipmunk, you just. I also have audio issues, so the reason I have audio issues is that I'm streaming a Discord for the tournament, and both Discord and OBS are trying to use my microphone at the same time. It just keeps on cutting between them, so it doesn't work. So this hand's like, okay, yeah, I'm on the draw. Like, this is like I'm thinking that if I draw Nykthos, this is turn 2 Nissa, which I wasn't able to. I haven't actually gotten it one time in the tournament, I don't think. Which is like the best possible draw, basically. I'm like, Nykthos. Damn it. I'm like, oh, well, this is bad. And I didn't attack because I didn't want to give the card for Uro. But obviously we're just ice cold. Yeah, I'm like, all right, if I draw Nykthos, I actually make a 6/7 Voracious Hydra, kill the Gargaroth, let's go. I'm like, oh, this isn't Nykthos. Oh, did the commentators not know why I didn't attack the Burn Chamber series? Yeah, it's because I didn't want to get them the card for Uro. Right. Oh, they got there eventually? Okay. But yeah. Obviously this game's not much to say. We kept a perspective hand, which I think was a good keep. I don't regret my keep at all. I don't regret my keep at all. I'm on the draw, and I had the potential to just win the game on turn 2. Like, they weren't even bad chances to win on turn 2. Because I could draw with the Nissa as a way out. Like, those were not bad chances to just win. We had a ton of outs even besides that. So there's not much to say about this game. We just get ran over. We don't do anything. The enemy draws a million cards, and we don't do anything. So. So this is game 3 of the finals. Game 3, last match of the tournament. Let's go. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Oh, I am ready. We're playing for 20K. The second place gets 30. So this is a $20,000 match. I'm like, okay, this is turn 3 Planeswalker. Well, this is good. This is what I'm looking for. Keep. So I was wondering whether I want to play like Voracious Hydra for 2 to make a 4/5 or play Vivian Plus. I ended up playing Vivian Plus here. Because I didn't want to walk into Fatal Push. So they end up blowing up our Wolfwillow Haven to keep us off 5 mana for Gargaroth, which, like, man. And one of enemy's removal spells is Heartless Act, so that's why I put counters on my Elvish Mystic. But could have maybe put 2 counters on Elvish Mystic. That could have been a better play, in retrospect. That was probably a mistake, honestly. I should have put 2. I should have put 2 counters on the Elvish Mystics that couldn't get disfigured. Probably. So we have the Nissa here, but it's free to play. So we have Nykthos. So we have Karn, Hydra, lands. Pretty clear Karn here. And I look at enemy's graveyard, I see an Uro, I'm like, okay, that thing's coming back. We have to go. We have to Karn for Gravedigger's Cage. As much as I want to play Elder Gargaroth here on an empty board, I have to get Gravedigger's Cage. Like, this Uro coming back is not a good thing for us to happen. We don't want that. We draw Nykthos. So it's pretty obvious here the enemy has Shark Typhoon, so that's what I'm trying to play around. Yeah, this was a bad turn for us. This was a pretty bad turn for us. Not this one, the next one, right? So like enemy, I'm sure they have a Shark Typhoon. I'm thinking like, okay, they Shark Typhoon into Murderous Rider. That's pretty bad for me. So why don't I just, I have 2 mana left over. Why don't we just Karn for Heart of Kieran and play it, and it's a flying blocker. Oh, it was last turn. I'm sorry. I breezed over it, by the way. Breezed over it. This is a disaster of a turn. I forgot to comment on it when I got to it. If you're wondering, so my Vivian started this turn with 6 loyalty, and I ended up Karning, playing Gravedigger's Cage and pushing F6 accidentally, but that's just because I was tapped out. So I'm like, oh, tapped out F6. Forgot to use Vivian. Really bad. Really, really bad. So our Vivian should be on 7, which is super, super relevant, as you'll see in a moment. We actually literally just threw away loyalty counter Vivian. Really, 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 really game-losingly bad. So we'll get to that in a moment. So we know they have Shark Typhoon. And so I go for Heartless Rider to get 2 blockers, so Shark Typhoon can't attack. And I did use Vivian this turn. I just used loyalty counter from Vivian to hurt the crew to Heart of Kieran. If I just get statue, they can still kill our Gargaroth and attack Vivian. I don't think that's great for us. I mean, we could have gotten statue. Oh, we don't even play Gargaroth. You're saying don't even play Gargaroth? And just I don't know about that. That sounds bad. Yeah, I don't. You want me to just not play Gargaroth? I don't like that. I mean, enemy has a Reclamation Sage in their deck. They can just kill it. Like, it's not even... Yeah, I don't know. So enemy's hand is like is 2 lands, Fatal Push, Uro. Right? And they go pretty deep in the tank. And they end up Uroing into exactly Murderous Rider. And then they use their last mana for Fatal Push on my Heart of Kieran. Yeah. This was bad because we missed a loyalty counter and Vivian. This was super freaking bad. So the enemy fetches a land out of the deck to thin it out. They play Uro. And they drew Murderous Rider. Yeah, so Vivian should be at 7 here. And take 3, go down. So Vivian should be at 4 here. Yeah, I was really pissed. Because here's what could have happened. If Vivian's on 4 loyalty, we plus on Grafdigger's we can plus on Grafdigger's Cage. Make Grafdigger's Cage a creature, use Hash Up Oasis on the Grafdigger's Cage, and then -3 Vivian to kill the shark. So was it really worth it to put... I was trying to play around Heartless Act, but you may have been right that it was bad to do. I didn't know my enemy boarded out Heartless Act. I mean, it makes sense. It can't kill my Hydras and I have Vivians. But I didn't think that they would do that. So I didn't know that they did. Yeah, you look at this. You know why I... Look at this. I was thinking about making the play. Do you see? I already selected Karn and I was hovering over Grafdigger's Cage. So I thought about the play. I thought about it. Did not end up doing it. Because I thought there was a good chance that enemy's last card in hand was a Fatal Push. So here's the thing. If Vivian is on 5 loyalty here, Shark can only knock one of them down. If they attack Vivian, I can -2 Karn for scavenging use of Verdurous Gearhulk, probably Verdurous Gearhulk. If they attack the Karn, I can Vivian for the same card, right? I can Vivian for Verdurous Gearhulk or Stonecoil Serpent or whatever. So the fact that I missed the 1 loyalty is game losing here. It's actual game losing, and I'm just like, I'm so angry with myself, and it's just I couldn't believe I made such an amateur mistake. And my wires have been crossed. It was just I was on life tilt. Yeah, so yeah, if you're wondering why I didn't end up doing, I thought they had a Fatal Push in their hands the last card, and the creature, the Grafdigger's Cage stays a creature until my next turn, so they can just untap and Fatal Push my cage, and then they rebuy arrows and I'm dead. So I could have -5 to give her just go hook and make an 8/8. But obviously we didn't, so. I'm just like, I am just so depressed. Like, I can feel the blood rushing to my head. I'm just like full of shame. I cannot believe in the finals. I cannot believe that this is how it all ends. I just like, I F6 my turn and just don't use Vivian. I can't believe it. Could not. Couldn't believe it. And then we draw Elder Gargaroth. Our second Elder Gargaroth. And I'm like, oh. I think their last card is Fatal Push. I think we actually have this. I'm like, okay, I drew Vivian. So here's what I'm thinking. I thought I had a read on Fatal Push, but now I looked at their list and I saw that there were 2 disfigures. That there were 2 disfigures. So I thought they could have had. I thought their last card was either disfigure or Fatal Push, because they haven't had an opportunity to play either. So I'm like looking at the math. I'm like, okay, Shark Typhoon, Satyr Wayfinder, Murderous Rider, and Satyr Wayfinder. It's 1 + 1 + 2 is 4, + 3 is 7. Plus 2 from Disfigure, that's 9. So I'm like, okay. All right. If they have Disfigure, and if I hash up Oasis, Elder Gargaroth, and attack, and they have Disfigure, they can kill my Elder Gargaroth. Like, okay. Can we beat Disfigure? All right, we can beat Disfigure. We can play Vivian. We can plus on the Elder Gargaroth and the Lawnmower Elves. And then we can use our Nykthos for mana and hash up Oasis this. We can use Lawnmower Elves and Forest. So like I put a counter on the Lawnmower Elves and Elder Gargaroth, and then I tick up Vivian on the Elder Gargaroth to make it a 10/10 attack. So with 7 + 2, Disfigure doesn't beat it. So like that's basically what's going on here. And I end up making a 3/3 because like, okay, I make a 3/3 because I'm thinking if Vivian lives, then I have Ulamog next turn. So I made a 3/3 to block so that they couldn't just like send 2 Satyr Wayfinders to just leave Vivian off. They would have needed to sacrifice 2 creatures to remove 1 loyalty off my Vivian, and I think that Gargaroth wouldn't have been able to carry it from there. But I actually ended up making a big mistake here because I was so excited. I didn't need to play Nissa and then use the I didn't need to use Nissa, and I didn't need to use Nissa and then use the mana for Nykthos. I think I had exactly enough to leave the Lawnmower Elves untapped without it. Maybe. Do I? If I use Nykthos now, it's for 4 mana. Yeah, I had exactly enough. I could have used Nykthos for 4. And then I use 3 Force and hash up Oasis to pump the Gargaroth, and then I can have Lawnmower Elves untapped. And so they actually couldn't remove loyalty unless they attacked with all 4 of their creatures of Vivian. So that was a pretty big mistake. I was just like, I was just so out of it. I was so self-chastising. I was so embarrassed. I was so full of shame from punting that Vivian. And like my head was still not even I still hadn't even acknowledged that I was back in the game. There, like, I even had a shot. I thought I was just dead. and I'm like, my brain was barely working. I'm like, okay, disfigured. I thought they had disfigure fatal push. Let's just I just focused on that, and I wasn't thinking about anything else. So yeah, obviously I should have left 11 Royals untapped. Big mistake. At least I knew to make the beast here. But I think enemy should have attacked Vivian with 2 Sated Wayfinders and British Rider. What they should have done, I think. I think enemy was frustrated too. So at this point, I don't know if I actually don't know if enemy brought in Emrakul. Right. So there's 2 things I'm thinking about. I'm thinking, okay, if they draw Emrakul, I lose. And if they drew Shark Typhoon for the turn, I lose. Right. So those, I'm like, okay, what can I play around? Shark Typhoon and Emrakul. What can I? I'm like, okay, if I minus Vivian for Scavenging Ooze, I've got so much mana, I can actually, I've got so much mana that I can. Not putting 2 counters in Gargoyle last turn was also a mistake. Like, these last 3 turns, I think by both players, we both played it really freaking poorly. But yeah, obviously I should put on 2 counters on my other Gargaroth because now they have 7 attack. Right, they have 7 attack. So, if I ult Vivian, then my Gargaroth can't even attack, right? It's like, oh, I played these last 3 turns. Both of us played these last 3 turns so badly. Well, yeah, I'm like, okay. There's 2 things to keep in mind. They can draw Traverse, and they can draw Reclamation Sage, and they can draw Emrakul, or they can cycle Shark Typhoon. I should have realized when they played Blooming Marsh that's what they drew, and that there's no way they had Shark Typhoon. I should have realized that. But the bigger mistake was last turn not putting 2 counters in the other Gargaroth to force them to actually have to draw a creature to be able to. And I didn't leave my line of words on. It was bad on all fronts. It was bad on all fronts. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm -5 Vivian. If I get Scavenging Ooze, that removes Traverse. I think I looked at the graveyard. I think I had enough mana to ooze like 7 or 8 times, maybe 9 times. I think I had enough mana to ooze 9 times, which I think would have been enough so that a Traverse was not a viable top deck, and neither was Reclamation Sage. And so at that point, I'm losing to Cycled Shark Typhoon or top decking an Emrakul. So but the problem with that is Eldol Gargaroth can't attack because they have 7 attack because I didn't use Vivian properly the previous turn. So like, okay, now that we're already here, if enemy drew Shark Typhoon, what then? I looked at the graveyard, I looked at their deck list, I see that they have 3 Shark Typhoons in their deck, there's 2 in their graveyard. If they drew Shark Typhoon for the turn, they can make a 9/9. If I attack, I actually lose. Right? Because I attack, make a 3/3, and they can quad block my dude down. Right? And if I play Ulamog, then they cycle Shark Typhoon for 9, and then I lose. They attack me twice. Right? And I can't do anything. So like I'm so fixated on the fact that like, okay, I don't want to lose a Shark Typhoon. Let's just not lose to that. Because I'm also thinking that's why I ended up didn't getting Ooze, because I'm thinking, okay, if I get Ooze, I actually do lose to a top tech Shark Typhoon. It was a 9/9, like 9/9 attacks 3 times, and I can't get through it. But then I don't have trample because Vivian's gone. So I'm like, okay, I have to end this in 2 attacks. I have to get Ulamog. But Ulamog creatures so I can attack with my Gargaroth. But I'm not going to because I cycled. Now a cycle Shark Typhoon for 9 can just eat my Gargaroth. And I need. Gargaroth has reach. So if they cycle a Shark Typhoon for 9, I can just block it. Block it, draw a card. Untap and attack with Ulamog. And then they die the next turn. So. Yeah, they drew the Reclamation Stage. They drew Uro. Or they rebuy Uro. I'm actually surprised they didn't rebuy another Uro. I don't remember what was stopping them, but yeah, they drew their second Reclamation Stage. They bordered in. Yeah, I was looking at their list. I'm like, they actually have no outs at this point. So like once the Zulamog hits, they can't kill me on the counter swing. I think they might have exiled the other Uro. I'm not sure, but yeah, I was super fatigued and super embarrassed, and it made me spiral way out of control. I think we were both in a really like bad mental state because obviously enemy could have stopped us from Vivian ulting as well. Yeah, let's look at that. I hope they can't come up with 4 here. Like, and I wasn't playing lands, so top deck Hydra. It was just like I was just on life tilt. Woo! Yeah! Yes! Oh, yes! I can't believe I almost threw it! Ah! My deck didn't let me lose! Well, that's how that went.